Hey viewers, I have this old road bike frame here and it was set up as a 12 speed. So that means that the spacing between the dropouts is about 126 millimeters. What I want to do is I want to set this frame up so that I can put like a more modern wheel on there with like 8, 9, or 10 speed on the back here. And the spacing for those wheels is 130 millimeters between the dropouts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this rear triangle here in a process called cold setting. So basically I'm going to bend this out. Only attempt this on a steel frame. Do not do this on an aluminum frame, a carbon fiber frame, or titanium frame. Only on a steel frame can you do this safely. And I'm going to show you the whole process of doing that. Okay, to start off with, I'm going to measure the starting spacing here. It should be about 126 millimeters, but in real life it'd be plus or minus a little bit. And in this case, it's about 125 millimeters. So I want to expand this out 5 millimeters. And if you look at 5 millimeters on a ruler, that's really not that much. It's generally pretty safe to do this. It's not an uncommon thing to cold set a bike frame. But as a caveat, if you're doing this on your own bike frame, you're doing it at your own risk. So if something happens, don't blame me. But it's generally pretty safe and not an uncommon operation. Okay, next thing I want to do is check the frame alignment. And I'm going to use a frame alignment gauge. This is from Park Tools, an FAG2 frame alignment gauge. It's actually kind of an expensive tool. And so if you can't afford one of these, I actually have a video on how to make sort of a homemade version like this. And so if you check the link in the description, you can go see how to make one of these. But how it works is it's going to touch along the head tube, the seat tube, and then it's got this little gauge here which I can adjust so that it just touches the dropout down here. So I just kind of adjust that so that it touches down there like that. So now with the tool adjusted on one side, I'm going to go to the other side here and again touch the head tube, the seat tube, and if the frame is in good alignment, then the gauge should just barely touch that dropout, and it does. So the frame is pretty straight. If it wasn't straight, then there might be a gap between the dropout and the gauge, meaning that it's farther in, or it might hit the dropout here and leave a gap in here between the seat tube and the gauge. But this is pretty straight here. If it wasn't straight, then that means on one side I might want to move it out farther than the other side so that when I was done expanding the rear triangle here, then when I retested it afterwards, then they would both be equally out and the frame would be straight. There are different methods that you actually use to expand this rear triangle. The first involves a relatively expensive tool called a tube straightener from Park Tool, an FFS2. And it's basically a big crowbar kind of thing here. And so what I can do is rest this part against the frame there. Got this little hook here, kind of hook under there like this. And then holding the frame down with my foot, I can use this to kind of like just pry this up and to expand the triangle like that. But as I said, this is a relatively expensive tool. Now another method is just to use a big board. And there's a couple ways you can use a big board like this. I have a piece of rag here, just kind of protect the paint there. And I just set that there, and I have another piece of rag here, just kind of set this here like this. Now what I can do is use it as a lever like this, and just like lift this just straight up like this. That's one method. Or I can bring this over here like this, and I might want to turn this up here like this, get a little height there. And now if I push down here like this, it's going to push down against the seat tube and then lift this up like that. Now my preferred method for expanding the rear triangle is using a threaded rod with some nuts and washers. And how this works is it's going to fit inside the dropouts, and I'm going to expand this, tighten this nut here, so that it's actually just going to push these out like this. And so to do this, I actually like to have a combination wrench here, just going to fit that on there like that. Just makes it easier to have it like that. And I'm going to fit this on here in the dropouts with the washers inside, and then kind of spin this nut out there like that. And then I have some nuts on the end here because I want to hold the rod to keep it from turning as I'm tightening the nut. I have some vice grips here that I'm going to clamp onto there, just kind of hold these like a handle here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start tightening this nut and push the rear triangle out And I can't just push it out to 130 millimeters and expect it to stay, because if I push it out to 130 millimeters, it's just going to spring right back to where it was. I need to actually push it out much farther, and then when I release the tension on this, it'll come back in. And what I need to do is repeatedly keep pushing out farther and farther until it finally comes to rest at 130 millimeters. So I'll tighten this out, and then I got my ruler here, and then I'll measure this. And I'm not even quite 140 millimeters yet. I know I'm gonna have to go quite a bit farther than that. So I'm gonna try to go about to 145. And I'm pretty sure that's not even close. Okay, so it's just a hair beyond 145. And so now what I do is release this tension, and then I'll remeasure. So now I'll remeasure this, and it is still at about 125 millimeters, so it really didn't even move. So I have to go well beyond 145 millimeters for it to come back and settle back at 130 millimeters. Okay, so I have it pushed out to 160 millimeters here, and so now what I'll do is release the pressure and see how that looks. Okay, so I've released the tension after the trip to 160 millimeters, so let's measure it to find out where it's settled. And it looks like it's like right at 130 millimeters, maybe 130 and a half millimeters. So exactly where I wanted it to be. Be sure to go in progressive steps, just go a little farther each time so that it comes back and settles at 130 millimeters where you want it to be, because you don't want to go too far and have it be overexpanded farther than where you want it to be. Now, after expanding the rear triangle, you might want to recheck the frame alignment just to make sure that it hasn't gone out of whack. And so again, I'll have to just adjust this down here like this and make sure, get this all set up, and then check the other side. Okay, so now I'm going to check the other side here, and perfect. It just touches there, and so the frame is still in good alignment. You might want to check the alignment along the way of expanding the rear triangle, especially if you're bending one side at a time, so that you know which side that you want to bend to make sure that when you get to the 130 millimeters that you still have a good alignment on the frame. Now that I've expanded the rear triangle here, I want to realign the dropouts, and so I have these tools from Park Tool. They're FFG 2s, and these are relatively expensive tools, but I have some video on how to make homemade versions of these, so check the link in the description for that. And so what these do is these just clamp onto the dropouts here like this. And I can kind of tighten this on here like this, and then tighten the other one on here like this. And these just tighten on here like this. And then I can use these little parts to adjust out. And I want these to be just parallel with each other. And they're actually pretty close. It looks like I need to bring this guy just up just a little bit. And I can bring these spaces in like that, and maybe bring this side just, I want to bend it just a little bit, just a hair like that. And so this gets a little just tricky, so you can just bend it like that and bring that in. And those actually look really good. Okay, here's a wheel with a free hub set up for like an 8, 9, or 10 speed cassette. It's got 130 millimeter spacing, and I'll slide this right in here like that, and it slides in like a glove, and just clamp that on there like that, and perfect. Anyway, so that is how to cold set a steel bike frame. Hope you found that useful or interesting. If you did, please give my video a thumbs up. That always helps me out. If you're not subscribed to my channel, click the big subscribe button, because you get to see new videos as they come out. I'm always coming out with new videos. I'm over on Facebook, RJ the Bike Guy. Go over there, like that page, and I post a lot of stuff over there. And I also have a webpage, rjthebikeguy.com. Go over there, sign up. I have all of my videos categorized. I also have some forums where you can ask repair questions. Anyway, thank you very much for watching.